Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to flight secrets that are never told to passengers. Now, I wonder what kind of secrets, they could mean. I mean, they must have some things, like I heard, I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard the reason why they tell you if a plane is going down or something, like if you're in a plane that's like crashing, like they say that you should like duck and brace for impact or something like that. Apparently it's so that if the plane crashes, you instantly like die. Like that's what I was told. I don't know if that's true or not, because I heard, if you survive, the airline will be liable to huge financial payouts. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, that's one thing I've heard. I wonder if there's going to be secrets like that, or if that is in fact true. Yeah, it should be an interesting video.
If you think you know everything there is to know about flying and planes, you're wrong. Even if you get on a plane once a week, there are still some things you may not be aware of, and some secrets that are not told to passengers. Like, why are most seats blue? And what's the dirtiest thing on a plane? If you've ever flown on a plane, you've probably used the lavatory, and you probably remember how it works. Well, not the actual toilet, but the lock system on the door. Once someone's inside, they'll lock the door, and a red sign on the outside will show that the lavatory is occupied. You can try to open the door, but you might not be able to unless the person inside unlocks the door. Or can you? What if we told you you could open the lavatory door from the outside? There's an external lock mechanism which is usually hidden behind the lavatory sign on the outside, allowing the person from the outside to open the door.
I guess in the case of an emergency, the people that work on the plane need to be able to access it. Makes sense.
The mechanism exists in case of an emergency and for safety reasons. While many get scared if lightning strikes the plane they're on, most crew members will remain calm. Why? Well, because lightning strikes occur more often than you'd think, and there isn't a reason why you should be scared, since the last time a lightning strike caused a plane crash was in the 1960s.
Wow.
Today, planes are constructed in a way where a metal mesh layers the entire plane and conducts electricity, but keeps it away from the passengers and the crew members. This way, the plane can endure any stress or damage that lightning would inflict, while the passengers won't feel anything. Additionally, this mesh can protect them from all kinds of electronic equipment from electrostatic discharges. The mesh is so powerful that it can even protect the interior from electromagnetic radiation coming from the outside.
Wow.
So next time you see lightning strikes while on a plane, think about this and know you have nothing to worry about.
Still, it must be quite spooky just to see, a bolt of lightning hit the plane that you're currently in while you're like 35,000 feet above the ground.
Have you ever sat on a plane and heard sounds or chimes nonstop?
Yeah.
What if we told you that they actually have meaning? Sure, there's the sound signal for when you need to put your seatbelt on or when to take it off, but we aren't talking about those here. We're talking about the random chimes that go off throughout the flight. These sounds or signals are a secret code that the flight crew uses. Through them, they can communicate across the cabin in signals. These chimes could be messages about the remaining snacks or turbulence warnings. On rare occasions, these chimes could be coming directly from the cockpit, telling the flight attendants to smash that like button if you haven't done so already. But no, they indicate an emergency or a change in route. However, while the flight crew knows their meaning, passengers will usually not be able to recognize which chime means what.
Right, to, prevent panic potentially on the plane. Makes sense.
Like lightning strikes are very common on a flight, so are bird strikes. In the past, there have been a few times where a bird strike caused huge damage to the plane and in the engine of the plane, causing it to perform an emergency landing. But the chances of this happening are quite low. Today, most engines are tested against such strikes and are made to be durable if a bird hits them. They would simply push out the bird on the other side and continue as if nothing had happened.
Oh man, that bird, that's obliterated. If an
engine isn't tested against this, it could lead to potential damage. But that's highly unlikely. Even though bird strikes are common, they have no huge potential threat to the aircraft. You just purchased your ticket and went through security at the airport. And now you're at your gate waiting for boarding to be announced. As soon as it's announced that passengers can begin to board the plane, everyone rushes towards the door and to their seats, creating long lines and crowded places. Now, instead of doing this, you should consider boarding last. Why? Well, all the tickets have an assigned seat, so rushing to get to your seat won't achieve much since the plane won't leave until all passengers are on board. And since you already have your reserved seat, boarding last is better since you'll avoid long lines and crowds in the aisles on the plane.
I mean, not necessarily, because like if you board last, you're at risk of there being no space for you to store your luggage, like to store your carry-on luggage. It's happened to me like a few times recently where, you know, all of the space is taken up and you have to stuff your hand luggage underneath the seat in front of you, but then you've got no space for your feet to stretch out. You're like sat like this. So yeah, I don't know. I'd rather get on the plane first, personally. I'd rather get on early.
You'll be able to comfortably move along to your seat and avoid people pushing against you trying to find their seat. When the plane dims the lights, it isn't a code to force you to take a nap. The lights are dimmed so that the passenger's eyes can adjust to the darkness. This is done in case of an emergency or something going wrong during takeoff and landing. This prepares the passengers for potential evacuation and makes it easier for the emergency exit lights to stand out in the dark and be more visible to passengers.
Really?
Upon boarding the plane, the flight attendants show you what you should do in case of an emergency, including...
Is that true? Because I've noticed that they usually only dim the lights if it's a night flight, like to get people to take a nap.
To use the emergency oxygen mask. If the time comes when the masks drop, you should put the mask on as quickly as possible. But we bet you didn't know that you have about 30 seconds to put the mask on before you pass out. The masks usually drop if the cabin pressure falls to unsafe levels, meaning there isn't much breathable air available. When the masks drop, they allow you to safely breathe while the pilot drops the airplane to a lower altitude. Now, what you probably didn't know is that the oxygen masks are only equipped to pump out oxygen for about 12 to 15 minutes. But don't panic, they know what they're doing. This is exactly the time needed for the pilot to drop the plane to a safe altitude.
But what if the pilot can't drop the plane to a safe altitude? What if they can't? What if there's a problem with the navigation of the plane or the steering, I guess you call it?
So by the time you remove your mask, you'll be smashing the subscribe button and ringing that bell notification. But in all seriousness, you'll be in a safely pressurized cabin without potential damage. Have you ever wondered why the windows on a plane are round and not square? Well, it isn't a simple design choice, it actually serves a purpose. Back in the days, or until the 1950s, planes were using square windows. However, a series of crashes showed that the corners of the windows presented a flaw in the design. Due to the sharp corners of the windows, which acted as a weak point on the plane, the metal surrounding the window had a pressure 2 or 3 times greater than anywhere else on the fuselage. Square windows were changed to round windows with smooth edges to avoid the damage caused by sharp edges. Round windows are less prone to breaks and cracks. If you travel a lot by plane, then you've probably already noticed that many airlines choose the color blue for their seats or their interior design. And no, that isn't just because they like the color. Many airlines choose this color since it's been proven that blue is associated with coolness and clearness, which explains why many hospitals also choose it. The airlines want to create a calm environment for the passengers and a relaxing feel. Sure,
But I've noticed that a lot of airlines these days, like especially the Middle Eastern ones, like Fly Emirates or Qatar Airways, they use like red. Maybe it's because of the flag, or because maybe red is like associated with luxury. I don't know.
Airlines like to use different colors that are bolder, but most of the time they also focus on more muted tones to create a home-like feel for their passengers. This is done so that the passengers can be as comfortable and relaxed as possible on their flight. When you board a plane and take a seat, do you ever wonder who else has sat in this seat and who's touched all the things you're about to touch? Well, even though planes are regularly cleaned once a day, some things remain dirty. Some research has concluded that the tray table is one of the dirtiest things on a plane, if not the dirtiest one. Among other dirty things are the rubber armrest and the handle on the lavatory. It's recommended to bring sanitizing wipes to wipe down your space and keep it clean for your trip.
Oh my God, I've never done that.
Overall, planes are quite clean and not as dirty as many believe they are, but these few places are worth wiping down. In the end, it's all for your safety and your enjoyment on the flight. Being a pilot definitely comes with quite a few privileges.
Oh my God, look at all the dials. I'd be like, What am I looking at?
For example, one of them is the food that pilots eat during a flight. While the passengers will all eat the same frozen food that the flight attendants make, the pilots get to eat a bit more luxurious food. You might think that this isn't fair, but it's an essential rule that they have to follow. Each flight, the pilots get served a special meal that's different from the other meals they serve, just in case the airline food shipment turns out to be contaminated. Also, the two pilots on board aren't allowed to eat at the same time. After one pilot has finished his meal, the other pilot has to wait at least an hour before he eats. This is a rule they also have to follow to make sure that the food they've consumed won't cause them food poisoning or make them sick. This way, they avoid both pilots getting sick if such things were to happen.
Imagine if the pilot that's waiting is really hungry, and he's just having to watch the co-pilot or the other pilot eat his food, just like...
Another thing that you might not have realized about the plane you're on is that it often has secret chambers hidden inside the plane. These chambers serve as a little hideout for the pilots and the crew members so they can relax or have a nap while on board. Being a pilot requires you to work up to 16 hours in a day, and sometimes this will also cause you to be exhausted. As they're not permitted to sleep in the cockpit, they'll go to their small chambers fitted with a bed where they can lay down and take the necessary sleep before going back to fly the plane.
Interesting.
These chambers are often hidden and kept private, and usually have one or multiple beds where a few crew members can take a nap at the same time and go back to work refreshed. But you'll never be able to see them go to these chambers as they have secret passageways to get them there without being noticed by passengers. Bye for now.
Very interesting. The secret chambers one is so interesting. I'd love to actually have a full-on tour of an empty passenger Boeing 747 just to see all the different compartments, what it's actually like to sit in the cockpit, because planes are probably much bigger than the portion that I see, because I only fly economy. I've never flown business class or first class, so but you usually see the first class parts of the plane as you walk through to the back of the plane to get to economy. But then to know that above, or maybe below potentially, these secret compartments are, I'd love to have a little sneak around. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.